Okay, so with the Transcendence update coming within the week or so, probably more like 5 days, considering I'm recording this 5 days before the update, I figured that it might be good to take like a quick glance at everything and kind of preview what I think about the skills and passives that I'm going to get come Transcendence for each of my classes, which are WS, SD, OP, and DL. I did this kind of sort of thing for renewal for WS, where I had like a kind of like a preview video, even though I said I was like really worried, and kind of like a review video. And I think I'll do a review video for each class too, where I'll be a little bit more talkative or a little bit more like wandering in my thoughts. But for this video, I should probably speed it up since it's going to be everybody at once. So to help with that, I'm gonna try to time myself to have like 10, 12 minutes max per class, and I'll try to condense it as much as I can and quickly get my thoughts across for everything. All right, so let's get started. So for WS I feel right now doesn't really doesn't need a lot in terms of like setup, because I'm already really good at setting things up with her, and every skill in her arsenal seems to have a good purpose. So I wasn't really sure what I would want, but if there's one thing that I would have liked, is that just having that non-situational like damage skill would be really nice for her. And well, I'll just take a look at him. Okay, so let's do this. So let's start. So Spinning Crescent. So Spinning Crescent is actually the exact opposite of what I might have liked, where it actually enhances her setup ability, where it just does the circle thingy, right? Just does the circle thingy across, and what that does is that it continually hits as it travels, and it's very slow, meaning that it can do a lot of things that might help her damage output in non special active situations. So kind of like containing mobs in that area. So the primary example would probably be Siege X, right? So you can't see it, of course, but Siege X has a lot of pushback with Power Shot. So you generally can't get a lot off of it, like in mid-screen or non-corner situations. But maybe with this skill, let me draw this circly lines again. Right, get the circly lines, right? And then use Siege X, just do an arrow here. Maybe instead of going from here to here, I'll go from here to here, because Spinning Crescent is gonna negate the pushback of Siege X. That's what I'm hoping for, at least, and if that does work out, then I'm gonna love this skill so much. I'm gonna love it so much. As well, it might also prevent knockdown situations such as this, right? And that'll actually give WS a little bit more utility in using her arrow combos, or the arrow knockdown combo for that one at least, mid-screen or a little bit better, right? So that's what I'm hoping for, is that it might reduce, it might prevent knockdown of things, and it might just prevent pushback, so kind of containing everything together. I'm looking forward to this skill a lot. And here's Gyro Kick. So Gyro Kick is exactly what I think most WSs would have wanted. It's just that speed skill where you just go flying across. It's just basically a giant box. Let's see if I can just make it. Wow, that's a horrible line. There you go. That's a lot better. So it's just a giant box, right? You just go for it. It's a lot bigger than this, but You get the idea. And I feel that that really rounds out her toolset just because of that speed option that I mentioned at the beginning of this. It's very straightforward. Probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most out of this is just knowing the range, like knowing the vertical range of this. I know that the wiki does say certain things about the range, but I'd like to see it for myself and kind of have that like imagery in my mind, so that I can know the range for myself. Words don't mean too much to me if I can't do them myself. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing else to it. Okay, so Max Payne. So Max Payne is kind of iffy. It's not as great as Spinning Crescent or Gyro Kick. So Max Payne reminds me a lot of Assault Impact, or where it's just like the second knee portion, kind of like this knee, right? Or this knee, right? Just that knee. And that knee just has like a different hitbox, and it doesn't have super armor. I don't think there's going to be much use for this in PvE, and that's mostly what I'm focusing on, if you're familiar with me. So I'll try this out. I try this skill out a little bit, but I'm not really sure if I'll find any use for it. And given that if I already like Spinning Crescent and Gyro Kick, that's already my 2 slots, right? So I can't really do anything. I can't really fit that in. But we'll see. I am interested in like what they changed here, where the range got increased and the attacking type changed. I'm curious to see what that actually entails, since this tip section definitely does have like definitely was made before the change, so I'm not sure if they like reduced the vertical hitbox and made it a little bit more horizontal or not. Okay, Liberty Will. Liberty Will for Rena is pretty much this. Right? It's just the siege passive. Because since siege burns an NS bar, you get more MP back. Oh man, why did they buff siege? Yeah, that's the main thing of this. It's simple, it's ridiculous. Siege is ridiculous. Okay, and for the kick command NF hit chance, I feel that this is about 50-50 for me. I definitely do use Z's a lot more than I feel like I should be given the state of arrows in Renewal. But I just want to keep people, right? I mean, that's what I play WS for. If I wanted to shoot arrows all the time, I would play GA. So, I definitely do get a lot, like, I definitely think I'll get mileage out of the chances. So, I definitely use this combo. I definitely use this. Use this, I use this, I use this, I sometimes use this. Sometimes use this, sometimes use this. Sometimes use this, sometimes this. So basically, pretty much everything besides these two right here, like I use in some capacity or another. So so I think that like having that extra damage would be nice, but I'm not gonna be like proccing all the time like GA will, since hers is based on arrows. Okay. And the last thing is Tenacious Willpower. So Tenacious Willpower. The first thing that isn't shown in the box here is that it makes Crescent Kick and Violent Attack like air okay, as in like you can do it in the air, right? And that's actually really cool, because what I'm looking forward to testing is that what if I can spread out Crescent Kick so that it shoots out 3 lines, like kind of like one wave here, one wave here, one wave down here, right? So let me just try it, right? It's kind of like that, right? If I can do that, then this would be ridiculous for setups, because you will actually mob aggro like an entire entire area. I think that might be really cool. Might be really cool for certain things. As well for Violent Attack, the angle that Violent Attack hits is like will make this really good against flying mobs because it's a little bit like it's a little bit more horizontal now than it was in like STR. So I explained this to my guy, but I always think of Violent Attack kind of like a ghetto horizontal clearing skill, just because of the way it hits now. So having that option on top of like gyro kick for like air to air situations, it makes like just gives even more flexibility. And on top of that, you'll be able to probably fit Violent Attack suction in more ways than you could originally. Because if you wanted to do like really tricky stuff, you would have to go off the platform. Like you have to use Violent Attack running off of a platform in order to get it to suction the way you would want it to. So having it be air okay just gives you that much more flexibility. In terms of the school cooldown, I only got like 10 seconds left, by the way, till 10-minute mark. But in terms of the cooldown, I actually haven't found a use for Reflect Kick too much, even though I have it on my skill bar. So I guess in a way, I'm really fortunate that it includes Reflect Kick instead of just being Nature's Force, because I don't really like Nature's Force. And maybe I can have a use just using it with Violent Attack and then doing Reflect Kick. Or doing Siege, right? And do Reflect Kick. And that'll just accelerate my options a lot more. I feel like. And I think that might just be its purpose. And that's okay, because that's why I originally used R's Quick Thrust in Skill Tree Revamp 4 when it had the skill note. Alright, so overall, I think WS gained a rounding out of her tool set. She got an extra thing in the CD minus aspect with Nature's Force and Reflect Kick. But I feel the main purpose of this Transcendence is that she just got her tool set rounded out. And I feel that her Transcendence really set a standard for me that was a little bit too high, and I'll get to that later on if you watch the other classes. Okay, so let me switch to the next class, SD. Okay, so with SD, I was looking forward to a Transcendence. Is I'm not entirely sure, because I feel that my SD playstyle is pretty well rounded out. The issue, probably the main issue, is that I don't have a lot of cancel flexibility, because when I originally made this playstyle for my SD, I had 3 cancel actives, which were Energy Absorption, Quick Thrust, and Counter. I had to remove Counter for Fire Lotus, and while Quick Thrust has like the ability to reset its CD at a random chance, it's still not that reliable, and I do end up with situations where I don't have the ability to cancel it into something for more orbs. So having 2 extra slots by itself already gives me countering and an option for countering, and that's what that's probably the biggest benefit of Transcendence for SD. But on top of that, let's talk about this first skill. So this first skill is called Fire Lotus Strikes. So this skill is kind of like a 3-part skill that you can delay, if you haven't seen it yet. Where basically the first part is kind of like that from Pulling Pierce, instead of without the pull part. And you have 4 seconds to do the second part, and then another 4 to do the third part after you use the second part. And I feel that it's so flexible. I'm looking forward to this skill so much, because I've been told that I use this just for an approach tool a lot of the time, and I've kind of grown out of using that just because of the fear of not having a cancel option, right? Even though you can see that quick press activated there with this trait. But I've kind of stopped using that because I'm scared of not having like the cancel options. But since this is just like a 3-part skill and it'll stop automatically at the first stab part, then I already have like that's automatically an approach skill, and then beyond that, with the 4-second delay, I can do like a bunch of things. I could probably do like dash DZ like a few times and just activate the second part, and maybe I can do this, right? If I want to like try to push back some more, do the third part. And the thing I'm most curious about is that can I cancel skills with the second and third part? So like, what if I could cancel the last hit of Shadow Weave there with the second part? So that means that I can do like, this is an approach, right? And then I'm just doing this, right? And then Shadow Weave, and then I cancel in the second part, and then so on and so forth. That gives a lot of flexibility, especially because the second and third parts don't cost anything. So it's important to know how you're filling in that 4-second time frame, and I hope that it has that kind of flexibility that I'm thinking of. And if it does, I'm gonna have so much fun with this skill. I'm looking forward to it. Alright, next skill. I've talked this for like 3 minutes already. Okay, so the next skill is Fierce. No, it's not Fierce. It's Secret Ferocious Tiger Strikes. And this skill I'm actually kind of looking forward to, just because of the first part. The whole skill itself, let me boot up paint here, get the scribbles going here, is that it does something like this, where the first part is basically like a 360, right? And afterwards, you shoot upwards, like you basically jump back, and then shoot down your spear, and then it just travels along the ground. It works a lot like Harpoon Spear, and from what I could tell, it actually builds MP really well at the ground part. But the thing is that all your damage comes from this, because it doesn't have like the first hit ordeal that those types of skills like Harpoon Spear, Quake Buster, etc. have. So this is where your main damage is from. Oh my god, my circle's getting worse. It looks like a pebble now. Or a potato. And I'm curious to know the range of this, because if it has good enough range, then I'm thinking of having it replace Matchless Truth. Because what Matchless Truth does for me right now is that it's kind of that skill that I use kind of to fill in the gaps, where say like I want to hit something around me, or I want to gather something into a certain area, then I use it like that. Like I use it for that purpose, instead of like just using it on the ground as an extra usually, because of the suction property of it. And if SFTS basically just hits 2 platforms above and below Aura, then I will take that skill just for that purpose, and I'll just cancel it. However, it also has the flexibility of when you don't cancel it, it builds back insane MP regain. And I think that if you combine it with Lotus, right, just the uncancel portion, then it's going to be fun. Like, you're just going to build back insane amounts of MP. So, this is another skill that I'm looking forward to seeing like what combinations I can use with, but it's not as like how should I explain it? Open-ended as Fire's Lotus Strikes. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I've already spent 6.5 minutes. So Swift Lotus Fang. So Swift Lotus Fang reminds me a lot of this, right? It's Quick Thrust, and it's also similar to Wind Wedge in some regards. I don't think I'm going to be using the skill too much, because the thing is that 35 MP is more more costly than one orb to me. Specifically because I can do this for free. And they still haven't fixed that. And I hope they never will. Shh, don't tell them. But basically, this art, like that sort of active already exists. And I feel that using 35 MP to do the pass through, which is the last stab when you don't cancel it, it isn't really worth it, especially because SD already like forces areas into the same position with Lotus, right? And Shadow Weave has like pull, right, etc, etc, and then Kite like does not situational. So I don't think it'll be like as useful to me. I'll still use it, I'll still try it, but we'll see. So the next one is Liberated Will. So this is your first passive. So I feel that this is a little bit more geared towards maybe the PvP side, at least for the hit stun increase. They call it flinch time, it's more like just hit stun. She gets more ignore and guard defense chance. I think this is just for her normals rather than applying a debuff like armor break. Though this does beef up. I'm pretty sure this works on actives maybe? If this works on actives, then Quick Thrust is just got better, which is really funny to me. The main thing here, in terms of PvE, is probably the maximum spirit energy part. I feel that in Hannier, it might end up being that it might be the best idea to not have any orb skills, like 10 orb skills to use, so that you can keep this up at all times. Because Elemental Recess kind of plays a big part, on top of this debuff duration decrease. I'm pretty sure it stacks with the already existing passive that does that. I think it's this one. Yeah, energy activation. So that might be handy in Hannier. Minimum spend energy with the extra energy gain. It's nice, but I think it's meant to synergize with the next passive, which is gigantic in terms of like text box size. So Devotion and Courage. This is a two-parter where Courage only activates when you use all your orbs. I think it's either when you use all your orbs or you're at 0 orbs. Either or. Yeah. So it's a really this is actually kind of an awkward passive to me, because using all your orbs that only really happens for Kite Fruit. I mean, that's all I have like slotted wise. But on top of that, like the other option to use like your orbs, so like Falling Dragon, Suppression, right? They're not too good. Falling Dragon, like, it doesn't cover as much base. Suppression doesn't do much damage, and its debuff gets overridden by Armor Crack when you get it to proc, which is very often in PvE. So, like, and Kite, you can't really use that for bossing, so this is one of those very awkward passives, and its benefits to me, because I don't use Tiger Art, it comes down to Dragon Art, right? And the thing is that Dragon Art, I don't really use Dragon Art that often in mobbing. I try to, well, it's not that common. So I think the thing I might get the most out of is probably this, where it speeds up -X even further than it currently is. But I don't know, I'll have to use it and try to see. Um, I don't think I can use Dragon Art within 10 seconds usually, just to gain back this extra 5. But we'll see, we'll see. It really depends on like where I end up with Kite. That's the problem. And in bossing, I don't think I can practice at all really, since I find Liberate Will to be more more useful in bossing than proccing Courage. So Devotion only works when you land a counter. And the thing I'm interested in is that if you can do like a backflip counter, like say you're countering a projectile and you just flip backwards instead of doing like the whole side swap thing, then this is going to be very useful, because there's a lot of situations where you can actually force the backflip counter in PvE due to later dungeons having a lot of super armor. So if you get an attack and then you can do a special active to kind of invul through it and then maybe cancel it with a counter, and then you immediately like counter the attack and you flip backwards, then that'll actually be really useful here. But it'll really depend on how it works, and I'll look into it. So overall, SD, I think I wasn't really sure what she would get, but I'm really happy with this combination, because Fire Lotus Strikes, that's my thing. That is totally my thing. Ferocious Tiger Strike, interesting. It also gives an incentive to not cancel all the time. Swift Lotus Fang, not much you can do there. Can't be perfect across the board. Liberate Will, iffy, as long as Devotion Courage. Those things I'm gonna have to look into personally before I really know how I feel about them. So I'll look forward to the review video, I suppose. Alright, so let's go to the next character, LP. Okay, so for LP, I don't think he really needed too much either. I feel that he's just really good in the space that he like controls, and on top of that, he's really able to work out his weakness of like kind of like a little bit more longer range off the screen, which is Stasis Field. So, like SD, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to get from Transcendence, but I think I might have gotten a couple things. It's okay to know. So, first up is Scion Rushing. So, this skill is pretty much this. Right? It's just that. Without the pass through on the last X. And that's just that in the skill. It's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. I don't think I'll get too much use out of this, primarily because I feel that if I wanted that, just use this. And I feel that has a lot more like flexibility, just because I can armor counter stuff. It can proc me, like it can give me procs on like Reaper, such like that. And on top of that, it doesn't cost any MP. And LP is kind of a class for me that's about spending MP to get MP back. And I don't see that kind of MP refund coming from Scion Rushing. Okay, so let's move on to the next skill here. So Quicksilver Strike. Quicksilver Strike, my favorite part about this skill is probably the fact that it does like the barrage of punches in a skill, right? And contrast to Scion Rushing, I find that actually really cool, especially because it fires out projectiles that pierce. And I just love the overall like obnoxiousness of it, because the magnetic field, he basically just like stomps the ground, I think, or he just pounds the ground, and then he does the punches, and then at the end it's just kind of like a mini particle excel. I find that really cool. The most interesting thing about this, about this skill, is probably this part. Okay, so let me draw this. Okay, so the thing is that as Ad's doing the skill, so say I'm here, right? So as he's doing the skill, and he's just shooting all of these projectiles and yada yada yada, right? What's happening is that the mobs are actually getting pushed back towards the edge of the skill, where the the shockwave will hit. And I find that might be really interesting in terms of mobbing ability, just because LP doesn't really have that much mobbing ability. Quakebuster does the job, of course, but it's you kind of have to kill with it, otherwise it's no bueno. Psychic Storm does really well for mob gathering, but you have to be in the center. Psychic Storm, you have to be in the center of things instead of being on the side. And being on the side is a little bit more safer than being in the middle of things. So I think that this skill, it's kind of like a mix between Quakebuster and Psychic Storm. It won't do the damage just because those two skills that I mentioned, they both have critical trait. So this might be a little bit less about damage and more about just positioning or setup potential. As well, this might actually give LP some good iframes, because this does take a little bit to go through from start to finish. So I'm curious to this skill's utility. I don't think it's gonna be a staple tool. I think that my LP's toolkit is already really, really strong for what it is. So having another skill in that same range doesn't necessarily make him that much better. But I want to see if it just rounds out the possibilities. Okay, so next up is Dynamo Configuration Spear. So this thing kind of fires an animation, in an animation similar to Psionic Beat, right? Where you just throws it across, and then instead of plasma particles, he throws a spear. Now, this thing is actually really cool to me because this gives LP the ability kind of just hit straight with an active. He doesn't really have that. I mean, Psionic Beat can achieve the same thing, but it's more it's ricocheting from this, right? And all his other abilities, oh, sorry, are cost way more MP because there's special actives. So I think for quick thing, this is really good. On top of that, it builds 1 TMP on hit. This is a lot more likable for me than Dissolver, because Dissolver, it doesn't really hit that far. It doesn't hit that far. Unawaken takes too long. Takes too long to go through the animation. And using it in Awaken, it does a lot more damage, but I don't like using my my DP bar to have that kind of speed. So I find it a lot more worthwhile to have this, especially because of its infinite Pierce and Awaken. And I'm gonna be Awaken as often as I can. So I think that having that Pierce is a lot more useful. So I'm looking forward to using the skill the most out of the 3, just because I want to see if maybe I can fit it in a sweet spot where it can hit the bottom of a platform mob and then the top of a ground level mob. That'd be really cool. Library Will kind of works on the Output Exchange passive, where if you're under 200 DP, you're probably in Distillation mode or Unawakened, and you probably want to build back up to above 200. And this kind of plays on that idea, I feel like, but with just like the literal modes. So, being Unawakened, now you actually get the speed bonus from this. And Unawakened, and that actually makes up for the difference. As well, that you actually gain even more DP naturally, so you'll actually get up to 400 like a little bit quicker, so that you can use configuration mode. And configuration mode is really good because most of your damage comes from Awakened mode, of course, especially because of Awakened damage modifiers, mutation points, like those sorts of things. And having like critical rate, damage, and maximize all get beefed up is really important, especially the maximize part for Quakebuster, Conqueror, and Stasis. Where's Stasis? Here's Stasis. So I feel that overall, like, out of the things he got, this is probably the most important, this passive, just because it makes everything he wants to do better and faster. Faster on, like, on several fronts. Okay, so the last passive is Energy Amplification. And this one just gives a whole myriad of effects, but I'm not really sure how useful they are in reality. So you get armor combos, do more crits. That's okay. Pulse Cannon uses less MP and DP. Okay. Conquer Unawakened. When you use Unawakened, it gives you the ability to gain back some mutation points for, I think, every time it hits. I think. I'll look into it. EMP Shock, I don't even use that. Void Breaker, nope. Quakebuster, this Nullify Enemies thing, this is actually a slow. So think of it like, I don't know, like Eltron Phase 2 Web? Yeah, that kind of slow. And then Pulse Cannon ignores Guard. So this passive isn't really that useful. I think this is more PvP oriented. Unawakened Conqueror getting back DMP sounds good, but the thing is that you're probably saving that DMP in the first place for Awakened and for other things that like don't knock down mobs or have the ability to kill, because Unawakened Conqueror is a little bit more spread out. So probably the main thing for me to look out from this is probably the slow, if Quakebuster doesn't outright kill. Excuse me. The armor combos, they're okay, because mostly all I use for armor combos these days is this. Right? I just use that. And maybe the X, like the X afterwards. And then, Pulse Cannon? Pulse Cannon, I'm kind of iffy about using, but I feel that maybe like ignoring Guard would be kind of useful. So, overall, I think the main thing like I like the most about LP is probably the Liberated Will passive. Just because I feel that it's enhancing what he's like already doing, for me at least, to be better. And that's A-okay in my book. I'm not sure, I don't think I'm going to use Scion Rushing. I might use Quicksilver Strike. I'll have to look into it. I'll definitely use Spear. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to have as a 10th slot. I'm thinking maybe a Pulse Cannon for energy amplification. But beyond that, not really sure. Maybe I'll actually get used to Quicksilver, so nah. I don't really like that skill. We'll see. Alright. So, let's move on to the last character, Dio. Alright, so, last character, Dio. What I wanted out of Transcendence for Dio, and I think maybe most Dios wanted, is just like some kind of flexibility. Because right now, this is not that flexible. Dead Hand's still building one stack, not flexible at all. So, I was kind of hoping that maybe with Transcendence, maybe they would have a little bit more space control, maybe something just to help build like help build stacks, or help make stacks faster, cooldown faster, etc., etc. Like, just give DL like back some flexibility. Unfortunately, I don't think that really happened. But let's look into it. So, first things first, Fear Tomorrow. Fear Tomorrow is a really, really bad, really unfortunate skill. Really bad? Yeah, I'll just say really bad. So, here's why. Is that, okay, oops, wrong tool in Paint. My bad. Where is, there it is. There we go. Okay, so you have the circle, right? So you're in the middle. So let's say you're here, right? And you activate the skill here. Shoots this way, shoots this way. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. There's your problem. Is that you already have that kind of skill in Supreme Punishment. And on top of that, Supreme Punishment is a lot more flexible than Fear Tomorrow because A, it hits platforms. Just the initial summoning part. B, it has a DOT. C, it procs terror stacks. Fear Tomorrow does not proc terror stacks. Instead, it actually builds terror stacks. Excuse me. Which is interesting, but the thing is that it's building it on a on an area that DL pretty much lives on. They live on the ground floor. So there's not much point to it. I feel that's kind of unfortunate. It's just throwaway. Not much can be done about it, I suppose. Alright, so next skill. Dead Cross. So Dead Cross looks kind of similar. Looks kind of similar to Dead Hands, but it's a little bit larger, and like the second portion kind of spirals outwards. So the hands actually spiral outwards and hit. So it kind of looks like this. So it's kind of like this, I think, and then it just does the swirly out, right? So the problem here is that I feel that it's actually cool that it actually builds tier stacks here, but the issue is that Dead Hands doesn't make it build 5 stacks. That's a big problem, because if this build 5 stacks, then this would be fantastic with Apollyon, or fantastic mob aggroing into like jumping back on top of a platform to do Supreme at the edge of it, but it doesn't do any of that. So it's a really unfortunate situation where this could have been really cool and a really surefire way to get like maximum stack damage on Apollyon, but that just won't happen. It's really unfortunate. Out of the 3 skills, this is definitely the most useful, and I think that it serves as a good tool when you don't want to use Runius and you want to switch to Loot. Because Runius is definitely a very, very niche situation. For me, at least. It doesn't get as much use in mobbing, so Dead Cross will definitely get some use. I'm hoping, at least. Otherwise, I might just outright hate it. Okay, and then the next skill is Bluff. Bluff is, from what I could tell, it might actually be the most useless active in Transcendence. I see no point in using this, because because it turns around mobs, right? But it can also turn mobs towards you, to face you. And what's the point in that? Like, what exactly is the point in that? It makes no sense. On top of that, it's not like DL has problems turning around mobs, because you have this, right? And you have this, right? So DL doesn't have problems turning around mobs, and when mobs are in super armor, you just use skills on top of them and you just maneuver around them like this, or you just keep your distance with CL. So I don't get the point of this skill. I don't get the point of it. Unfortunate. So yeah, I won't be using this. I'll try it out a few times, but I don't think I'll like it one bit. So Liberate Will. Liberate Will is very unfortunate, and because it's universal across Lucios. So every Lucio has this passive, which is silly. Like, what's the point? Like, even Rena's varied in some aspect at least, because GA, you proc the extra NF orbs with arrows. WS kicks. NW, I believe it's like with the sword. But here it's just universal. And here's the problem. Is that DL has a really hard time using CP. So outside of Nether Shredder, right? You don't like. There's not a lot of places where you can use Apollyon, where you can use Oblivion, and especially Soul Infest. Oh, Soul Infest! Please don't bring that to PvE, please. But like DL has issues trying to get like CP skills in, unless it's Nether Shredder. And even then, Nether Shredder isn't that good unless you have like a God Giant Prog where it'll actually hit a little bit higher, to where it can actually match like Apollyon. So it's really awkward because I feel that DL excels the most in sitting on max CP instead of burning his CP. On top of that, you can very easily build 6 CP. DL, do this, and because you always have the incentive to use Dead Hands, due to its buff, even with how it is right now, you're still gonna use it for the extra attack damage, right? So you always have the incentive to do this, and cooldown reduction makes this actually even harder because you want to keep on refreshing it, right? And that's just a big problem. It's just a big problem. So I don't know how often I'm actually gonna even be under 5 CP to use this passive for, because I feel that when I play under 5 CP, I'm looking to make more CP, not to just sit there and do nothing. Because eventually I'm gonna get it with 2 Dead Hands, or with 3 Dead Hands, right? And I'm eventually gonna use Supreme. Like, any combination of Supreme and Dead Hands, like, that takes me out of the passive. And it's not really what I'm looking for here. It's not, like, that doesn't appeal to how I play DL, at least. Might appeal to some other DLs, but definitely not mine. So, I'm not really sure, if I can switch my playstyle around this or not. Because I certainly can make use of the light proc, but it's that what matters, like what benefits the most from, like, say this critical and this maximize, it's from like Runeus and from like Supreme, right? That's the 2 main things. And you're not gonna be like using Supreme Supreme casually, and you're not going to use Runeus that often, right? So you're going to literally spam Supreme, and it's very rare that you'll get Runeus in a 0 CP situation. Usually I just use Dead Hands right away. So yeah, it's just not going to work out. Sorry if I repeated myself. I apologize. I just wanted to make myself more clear. So the last passive here. This passive is the thing I'm looking forward to from DL. So, it's Power of the Throne. And it has the Aurochs icon, right? More or less. Where it's just like Lou doing the animation where she lifts her arms up in the air, right? The thing is that you don't need Aurochs for this. You see the red outline? You just need that. So that's just super armor. So all you need is super armor. And that's what makes me curious. Because if I want to use Apollyon, and I kind of want to, like, if I want to make use of this passive, I have to use Apollyon. So I need to find super armor states to make that happen. So, of course there's Aurochs, that's really easy. The Yell Wiki video on this passive, on this passive page, also shows this chain working as long as you cancel it immediately. So if you do that works, right? What I'm curious about is there anything else super armor related that DL can use to activate this passive? Like something that has like delayed super armor frames that you can cancel, skills into at the end of the duration. So I'll be really curious to know, to be honest. So let's say like Strong Strike, right? I've actually like changed my traits around just for this purpose, so I can test it. Like Hunting Prey, Terror Absorption, I already use super armor anyways. And then Shackling Chain, right? You have those, right? On top of that, you have this. The Switch. The Switch is super armor. So what if you can switch and then do a pull on? And will that activate the passive? If it does, that's really good. That's really good. And having like Dead Cross around, if it worked in tandem with Dead Hands, just like building 5 stacks, that would be awesome. Like just awesome. Just like finally there's some like good combination of stuff on DL that doesn't feel so neutered. But this is all just Furycraft. I need to know these things when I get to using them. Okay, so I think that's it for DL. There's a lot of questions in my mind. A lot of answers already figured, already to those questions, because all three of these skills have some sort of weakness. Dead Cross is the most viable of the 3. I don't know what I'm gonna do for my 10th skill, to be honest. We'll see. Well, it has to be Apollyon, right? Probably has to be Apollyon, yeah. But we'll see how I feel about it. So yeah, that'll be it. If you stuck around for the whole thing, I appreciate you listening to me this whole time. Even if you stuck around for just this part or any of the other parts, just because you just want to know about your class and how I feel about them, no sweat. I appreciate that too. Again, I'll probably do a review video for each class. I want to get to play them for a little bit, and probably do the impressions D1 or D2, probably D2. And yeah, I think that'll be it. Thanks for watching and listening. Catch you later.